Okay, so before we can start, just let me know,
Mhm.
do you have any idea what is Citrix and how it works and why we are using Citrix and what is virtualization?
So it's basically a provisioning tool, software, so
Mm-hmm.
we can access resources remotely for the
Mm-hmm.
clients. And virtualization is basically sharing the resources.
Mm-hmm. So what is virtualization?
So it's sharing of the resources. Like if a dedicated resource, you can share it among. It's not free all the time, So you can share that resource. For example, if you buy a computer, so it's not dedicated to one person, one user. Multiple users can access that, and you can utilize the usage of that computer.
So basically, with the help of virtualization, we can utilize any hardware up to its maximum efficiency, right?
Yep, yep.
Ideally, it should be 100%, but in practical world, nothing is 100%, right? We are having some losses as well, right? So we will try to
Mhm.
achieve at least 90 to 95% of efficiency or utilization of the resources, whatever we have, right? So for an
Mhm.
example, like this is my physical laptop, right? And in my
Mhm.
physical laptop, if I go to the performance tab, you will see like this is my CPU, only 15% utilizing right now, and my memory is 45% now, right? And my laptop is running right on Windows 10. So what I'm doing here, I'm just wasting my resources. Why? Because I'm unable to utilize rest of the 55% of memory and 80% of CPU, right? So with the help of virtualization, what we can do, we can install the hypervisor on a physical server or physical hardware, and with the help of that hypervisor, we can create multiple VMs or virtual machines on that hypervisor, right? So in that way, like with the same resource, like on 16 GB of RAM, I will be able to create at least 3 or 4 machines on a same hardware. Is it clear?
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay. So now coming back to the presentation. So basically, Citrix is it is a company located in US, Florida, and it is most popular for two products in virtualization, which is known as GenApp and Gen Desktop. So earlier, those products were known as GenApp and Gen Desktop, but now, after the release of like version 7.xx, right? After that version release, they guys renamed their product like from GenApp to Virtual App, and from Gen Desktop to Virtual Desktop. So now their product are known as Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop. Is it clear?
Yep.
Okay. So now how Citrix works, right? This is a kind of network diagram you can consider, right? In this diagram, I will let you know how Citrix works. So as you already working in Citrix infra, right? So just try to explain whatever you are getting from that diagram. Just try to explain.
Okay. So basically, on your left side, where the Citrix receiver is, user
Mm-hmm.
devices Citrix. So this is basically responsible for provisioning or showing you the Citrix. So this is the end receiver in your computer.
Mm-hmm.
Then it connects through the gateway, and then
Mm-hmm.
it goes to the storefront. Storefront is responsible for the provisioning of the apps, I think. And then delivery controller is basically the brain of the whole operation. Studio and Director is also for configuration tools. Licensing server is acts as a connectivity, like license. You need licenses to provide services and apps. Server VDA, desktop VDA is basically these are the two areas which I'm not very fluent. And Active Directory is for authentication of the users, and SQL Server is for the database. So now,
What is a storefront server?
Storefront is basically no, it's responsible to give you the apps.
No, I'm asking what is a storefront server?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
It is a web page for end user. That's it.
Okay.
It is a web page, na? Like, you know, whenever you have to access your resources, you must have to type some URL www.xyz.com, right?
Okay. Okay.
So let me show you how to get exit of that. Okay. So let me show you. This is my storefront, right? Here,
Okay.
this is my storefront server. So for end user, it is a web page, right? I have to give that URL to my users, then user login. So let me log in with test user one. Let me enter the password. Once user login, so look, once user login, it will go to the Active Directory server to check the credentials, right? Credentials now validated.
Okay.
Now you can see application and desktops are now published to the users, right? And user now click on that desktop, and the desktop will launch for that particular user, right?
Okay.
So let me explain this to you. Okay, so on your left hand side, it is a end user device on which we have to install one web browser and one application which is known as Citrix Workspace app, which is responsible to create a secure connection between end user PC and to our Citrix infra servers, right? So this is an end user desktop or laptop or whatever it is. It could be a Android device, like iPad, whatever it is. Okay, user can connect with any of the device. So this is the end user part. Now, in between, we are having firewall. So for Citrix, the firewall will be NetScaler, but it not always recommended to have NetScaler. Means if you are having any different firewall in your organization, you can configure that firewall as well, right? But for Citrix, they guys having their own firewall, which is known as Citrix ADC or Citrix NetScaler. Okay. Now, this right hand part, this entire part, it is your data center in which all the resources are hosted, right? In data center, you will have the storefront delivery controller, which is a mastermind or core component, right? Then SQL Server for database, then Active Directory for to manage users and computers, right? Citrix Studio, basically, it is a it is a GUI console. With the help of Studio, you can manage the entire infra. What is Director? Director, it is a tool for IT guys. With the help of Citrix Director, you can troubleshoot the issues related to the VDI or the virtual machines, right? And license server is something which is responsible to allocate the licenses to the virtual machines, okay? And this is your hypervisor on which we have to host all the virtual machines or the servers, right? So now these are the core components I just explained to you, right? But how it works, right? So this is the end user. Now we have allocated a new virtual machine to end user, right? So what we have to ask to end user, like we will ask him like, please open web browser and enter our storefront URL, right? So storefront URL will be www.whatever.com, right? So so once user enters that particular URL on the web browser, then it will load a web page, right? So means this is my server. Let me log out. So now I'm acting as an end user, right? So someone gave me that URL, right? And now I just open this URL. So now this is a web page which is opened for me, right? Now now storefront will prompt user to enter the credentials, right? Why? Because the first
Mhm.
screen he is getting the same. So now I'm entering the credentials, right? So once I click on login, right, it is a nanosecond task, right? So let me show you. Now I entered my credentials, right? And when I clicked on login, that query will go to the delivery controller, right? That user wants to
I
log in,
see.
right? So delivery controller is the mastermind, right? So what delivery controller
Okay.
will do, it will forward that query to Active Directory server. Like, boss, please check the credentials are valid or not. Why? Because Active Directory server is responsible to validate the credentials, right? So once user click on log on, storefront forward that query to delivery controller, and delivery controller forward that query to the Active Directory server. So let me click on log on. So now I clicked on log on. Now Active Directory validated my credentials and I'm getting this screen, right? So now what if, now let me try to enter some wrong credentials. Okay, some random password. In that case, what will happen? Query will forward it to delivery controller forward same query to Active Directory server, and Active Directory server will tell like users are entering the wrong credentials or users is not valid. That particular user is not valid, right? In that case, if
Mhm.
Active Directory deny the connection, user will get some error like incorrect username and password, right?
Mhm.
So what is happening here? Storefront, storefront, it is just a web page, right? And it is
Okay.
forwarding the query to delivery controller, and delivery controller knows who is the correct person to validate the credentials. So in our case, Active Directory server is the correct person who can validate the credentials, right? So now my credentials are validated. Let me enter the correct credentials. So now credentials are validated. So what will happen here? Now my credentials are validated. Now what will happen? Active Directory again forward the request to delivery controller, and delivery controller knows now credentials are validated. Now we have to check in database what is the applications or desktop allocated or published to that particular user. So what delivery controller will do? Delivery controller forward that query to database server, SQL server, and it will ask, please check in your database which application or which desktop is allocated or published to that to sorry, to that particular user, right? So
Mhm.
once it will done, now you can see delivery controller Active Directory server validated, and it will check with the database. Now if I click on the application, as per the database, those icons are published to me. If I click on the desktop, as per the database, two desktops are published to me, right? So if I change the user, again let me log on, test02. So as per the database, the application should be different or desktop should be different for test2 user, right? Let me log on. You can see applications are same, but this user having only single desktop, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
these logs are stored into the database server, which is SQL server. Is it clear?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Now let me use the highlighter where it is. Okay. So now SQL server validated, like this applications are published to user. Again, it will forward query to delivery controller, and delivery controller will forward that query again to the hypervisor. Like it will tell boss, please power on those virtual machines or the icons user wants to access. So all those virtual machines, it will get powered on in the hypervisor. And when user click on log on tab, he will get the icons, whatever is available for that particular user, right? So now what will happen? Now user is getting these icons are published, right? So let me log off again and let's go with the test01. Okay. So now I'm getting as an end user two desktop, right? So now user will get those tiles, right? So once user click on the tiles, it will download one ICA file and it will open that file with the Citrix workspace application. So let me launch this.
Mhm.
You can see now I got my desktop connected. Is it clear
Yep, yep,
how it is working?
yep.
Okay.
There's only one point once you finish. So only one thing here. So
Mm-hmm.
the database server, it only has the information that it's got the information reference where to go. Yeah, it doesn't have the actual apps. Apps are in the VDA server.
Apps are in hypervisor on video server, right? This
Yep,
is just
yep, yep.
it is just keeping the records,
Reference.
right?
Yes, record keeping. Yeah, yeah.
So now it will launch the desktop for me in some time. So this is actually, this lab is already set up, but I'm just explaining you with the practicals, right? So now once our
Yep,
machines,
yep,
it will power on now, it will check for the license server, it will register the machine into the delivery controller, right? And what is studio? So basically studio, like the launching process, like when user launching the applications, there is nothing to do with studio, nothing to do with director, only license server will be included. Basically studio is a tool. With the help of Citrix studio, you will be able to manage the machine catalog, manage the delivery group, manage the users, right? Those kind of operations you can perform with studio.
yep,
And director, it is a tool, right? So for an example,
yep.
like let me, this is my director URL. Okay, right? So let me log into my director. So basically how director works, like this is my director. In my director, if I go to the dashboard, I will see the information like user connection failures or whatever is going on, what kind of delivery groups I have, right? All those informations are there. And if I click on the search, now let me try to search user test 01. So if I click on that user, I will be able to see user is now connected with one machine with Windows 10. Why? Because here he is connected to this machine, right? So
Mhm.
once I click on this, so I will get the list of applications, whatever applications is open for this user. But right now there is no application open, right? So let me open some applications here. I can open the Microsoft Edge. I can open the spreadsheet. Okay, so now I open two applications. So now you will see one application is open, which is Microsoft Edge, and spreadsheet is launching, right? So it will listed there soon, right? So if I refresh this, you can see.
Yep.
So now if a user call me and a user is telling me like, my application, it got stuck, right? User is
Yep.
not
Yep.
able to close or perform any operations, right? So in that case, what we can do, we can click on this particular application and we can end the application from here, right?
Yep. Yep.
So this is how it looks like.
One thing, please. If you go to the details and then you go, there's something which I don't know in this it is configured or not. If you go to the details, excuse me.
I'm
No,
going.
no, details of the.
Yeah, just give me a minute. My server got stuck.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. No worries.
Okay. Now, if I click on the details, you will get
Yeah, and
the
if you
machine
come
name.
down, please. Yeah,
Hmm.
and down more where there's roaming profile thing is there. Yeah, come down. Yeah, here. Sorry. So here I see on the left. If you go up, please.
Personalization
Yeah, if
tab you are
where you
talking
see it,
about.
yes, yes. So, excuse me. In my environment, I see sometimes the bar is red
Hmm.
and the disk space is running low. So,
Okay.
what is this? Can you please explain that to me?
So basically, like in your infra, right? So like applications or desktops are getting published with the PBS infra only, like provisioning services, right? So
Yeah.
this is why we are not getting these options here. The reason is that because this particular machine, it is hosted on MCS in far so far. I'm just demonstrating you how things work.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That we will configure in upcoming sessions, and then you will be able to reset user profile from here. You can reset the virtual disk. You will get the details. Everything will be there. Okay.
Yep. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So now,
Nice, nice. One more thing here. What is the roaming profile and your local profiles here?
sorry, what is
Roaming
the?
profile and local profile and roaming profile.
Okay, so look, roaming profile is nothing when you are using the folder redirection and you are keeping users data on any shared folder, it is known as the roaming profile, right? But if you are using any persistent VDI or persistent machine, in that case, what you will do, you will host all the user data on the local drive only, right? So
Okay.
look, in my case, like as I told you earlier, like in my case, what I'm doing here, I have created one share here where it is. Okay, share folder here. In that share folder, I have created one user profile folder. So whatever the users are doing, for me, users data are stored here only in this share folder, right? But for users, the data, it is on your on their desktop. Like, let me show you. Okay, so as you can see, this is my test user one, right? For test user one, this is your desktop and he's having some files and folders, right? But actually, these files or folders are not on this machine. These folders are on my local drive, means my shared drive, right? So for user, it is a roaming profile. Okay.
So is it a temporary profile? It's a permanent one.
It's a permanent one, non temporary one. Means if I let me show you, like if I create any new folder here, I can give any name, right? So that folder for this user, this folder is stored on his desktop, right? But basically the data is present on this path in this local server, right? Not on the VDA. So what is happening here? Why I do that? The reason behind is that means if this particular user, this user can log into any of the virtual machine with the domain credentials, right? But on the every virtual machine, he will get the same desktop. Means on any machine which is connected in my domain, user will get same desktop. He can log into any desktop in the office premises. So that is the reason behind this. Means let me try to show you if you can see. This is your user desktop. For user, it is a desktop, right? But if I right click on the desktop, if I go to the property and if I go to the location, you can see I change the user desktop location to this DC server, right? But if I open CMD here and if I type host name, you will see what is that? Okay, host name. So you will see the host name of this virtual machine is Windows 10.01, right? But user's desktop is hosted on some other machine, right? For backup purpose, because you know now things are easier for me. Why? Because if I have to take a backup of 1,000 users, what I have to do? I have to copy single folder only, this folder, right? I do not have to go to a desktop of every user and then I do not want to manually copy the user data, right? So this is a thing. Means now if someone told me, means whatever the plans I'm having like daily backup, weekly backup or any other user data backup, what I have to do? I simply copy that folder and I can paste this folder to any location. Any doubt?
Okay, okay, okay.
No.
See, this is user profile, no?
Yeah. I just given the name user profile and in this user profile, I'm having multiple users, right?
Okay.
Okay, so let me show you how it works. Like this is my server manager. Go to the Active Directory users and computers and test users. Now you can see like only 3 users are there, right? I have not created any 4 user, right? So now what I can do, let me create one more user here, like test, then user 04. Let me name it test 04. Next. Password will be this. I'm entering some random password for this user and click on next, then finish it. So now test user 4 is created, right? But when you see here, right, one folder is automatically created when I created the new user.
So when you are creating the domain user, then automatically it will create a one folder.
Yeah, but why it is creating the folder? Because I have configured one group policy, right? Without
Okay.
group policy, it will never create. Means now what I can do, I can let me create one more user like test user 05. Let me name it test 05. Next, enter some password. Next. So test 5 is created. When I go back here, you will see one folder is automatically created. But if you click on test 1, you will get desktop document download, right? But for this user, there is no desktop, no download, right? Why? Because the user didn't logged into any machine so far, right? So
Yes.
let's try. What we can try? Let me go to the storefront. Now here, let me try to log in with the test 4. Test 04. Let me enter the password for test 04. So now it is creating the user profile for first time. As you can see, it is applying the folder redirection policy. Now it will create the desktop for first time for this user. And in some time, you will see desktop and other folders will be created here soon. Okay, once, no, okay, here in test 4. You can see it is automatically created. Got it?
Yep.
Yes.
So these are the group policies actually. So I will guide you how to create the group policies. Means if these are very, very simple actually, not that much complicated. Okay. Okay. So this picture is clear, Mohammed? Your
Yes.
name is Mac, right?
Math. Yep. Yep.
Okay. So now, okay, I'm having only 3 minutes remaining in this session. So what I'm doing, I'm terminating this call and I'm sharing new invite to you. Okay, within 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, this call it will automatically got disconnected. I do not want that. Okay.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah, because another reason is that I'm using free version of Zoom, so we are only having limitation of 45 minutes only. And the reason behind is that because for YouTube perspective, I always used to prefer recordings up to 45 minutes only. If I record a session for 1 hour, 2 hour, and 4 hour, no one will see the videos, right? It
Yep.
will be
Yep.
boring actually. Okay. So I'm just sharing new invite to you guys in couple of minutes. Okay.
Okay. No worries.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike.
Bye. Bye.